Hi everyone, and welcome to Cinema Reviews. Today I just wanted to share some of my thoughts of the Halloween Ends movie and discuss some of the spoiler information that I did not want to include or ruin for anyone else who hasn't seen the movie yet and wants to go in with a fresh mind and a fresh perspective. So to avoid any spoiling, I decided to do a separate video. So I just want to share some of my thoughts, and I'd love to hear yours. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you thought of Halloween Ends. And with that, let's get to it. So in my spoiler-free review, I discussed how different the film was from any other Halloween film. Now, to give some perspective, I did keep an ear to the ground, if you will, and knew that there was going to be some twists and turns, and knew of the speculations of the Corey character being a copycat killer. So that probably heavily impacted my experience with the movie, given the fact that I knew or had some expectation in the back of my mind of what would happen. But the fact that this film is different than the past two, that being Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, was the font and the color of the title sequence. And in the theaters when I first seen it, I thought, interesting choice, blue, versus the classic orange that's been used in all the other Halloween movies up to this point. And it wasn't until listening to other people talk about this film that it occurred to me that the font color, as well as the font, is the same as Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, for those who do not know, the creators of the 1978 Halloween movie, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, wanted to do an anthology movie series using the title Halloween, basically meaning that they would have new stories that revolved around the holiday but did not necessarily include Michael Myers or even be a slasher movie per se, which was a big reason why they killed Michael Myers in Halloween 2 in 1981. The film came out in 1982 and until recently has been really seen as a redheaded stepchild of the Halloween franchise due to the fact that it did not have Michael Myers in it. Personally, I did like that film, even though we're not here to talk about that one specifically. So moving on to the main point that has divided fans about this movie. Having Corey be the main antagonist throughout the majority of the movie and being a copycat killer. This may be a little controversial, but I think that it was a very scary and effective decision. And in some parts, I thought he was scarier than Michael. For instance, like when he lures that cop into the storm drain where Michael is, and you just see that smile come across his face. Or the pool scene where he's attacking the doctor, and he just looks up and he has that scarecrow mask on. And let's just think a minute. What made Michael Myers scary in the 1978 film? It was the fact that he was an ordinary person. Granted, Dr. Loomis' character throughout says he's not a man, he's purely and simply evil. The darkest eyes, the devil's eyes. But he's always portrayed as human. Granted, the line is kind of murky, but what made that movie so scary and so effective was the fact that it could happen in any town and to anybody. This was removed from the era of the monster movies. It was different than a movie for like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out in 1974, where the location is isolated. The location of the original film was every town community, and Michael Myers was essentially an ordinary person that was able to commit such horrible acts. So I think having Corey become this new evil, or additional evil I should say, was a very good decision, and it was used very well because there's so many moments where he scared me more than Michael Myers did, because Michael Myers is no longer just an everyday person. He's literally the boogeyman now. One thing I did not like, though, was the lack of explanation of why Corey becomes evil. Now, some may argue that that's essentially the point. That was the point of the original film. There was no rhyme or reason why Michael Myers started his killing spree when he was a child. But the film shows little glimpses of Corey's past. But it never expands on that. It never explains what that was or why just looking into Michael Myers' eyes makes him change. Another thing that I didn't like, or at least was mixed on, was the fact that so many characters are underutilized, really. Because you have Lindsay Wallace, Officer Hawkins, and Allison returning, but they, well, 2 out of 3 really play no major part in the battle against Michael Myers. Although it was marketed as if Laurie Strode, Allison, and Lindsay were going to be the ones who defeated Michael, or at least went toe-to-toe with him, when that was not the case. And then you have the final act of the film. And one thing I think a lot of people agree on, that it was very underwhelming. For me, it was underwhelming because of the fact that a majority of it was shown in the trailer. When the trailer first came out, many people were relieved by the fact that it was so short. I think it was only like a minute long. But so many people were relieved with the fact that they were not going to show too much in the trailer. Because the past 2 films, it was felt that they shown too many plot points and too many of the scenes where Michael shows up and attacks. So you get to the final act, and then you have the whole shot of Laurie standing in the doorway with the gun, and then the kitchen fight, and then that quote-unquote finale's over. So it was very underwhelming, since essentially we already seen it before it even was released in theaters. Now, something I've heard many people complain about, but I actually liked, granted, since I was thinking more about it, and that is how Michael Myers is defeated in this movie. A lot of people said that there's a huge logic gap, because how can he take on the entire town of Haddonfield a few years ago, but now he's beaten by an old lady? But I got to thinking about this argument, and it started to make more sense to me. People only have as much power as you give them. Because let's take a look back at the scene where Corey takes away Michael's mask. Something that upset many fans, no doubt. But let's look at that scene. What does Corey say before he's able to get the upper hand and take away Michael's mask? You're just an old man. What does Laurie Strode say before she has him basically dead to rights? I used to think you were the boogeyman, but you're just a man who's about to stop breathing. It was very reminiscent of the Nightmare on Elm Street ending, where Nancy Thompson, played by Heather Langenkamp, defeats Freddy Krueger by taking away all the power that she gave to him, all the fear that she gave to him.
I want my mother and friend again.
What?
I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing.
And thinking about it, it started to make more sense, because Halloween Kills, everyone in Haddonfield is afraid of Michael Myers to the point that they act stupidly and they form mobs out of fear. And in that movie, he's as brutal and powerful as he's ever been. And then the disposal of Michael Myers' body. I really enjoyed the fact that they gave a definitive ending. There's no way he survived. There's no way he's coming back. And I feel that too many people are unappreciative of this moment in cinematic history. because personally, you get very tired when you're watching the old Halloween movies. He's never definitively dead. The closest he's ever been was in Halloween H2O, but then it's revealed in Halloween Resurrection that it was not him who was killed. The fact that they stood by their word and actually got rid of Michael Myers, for this timeline at least, I was very appreciative of. Laurie Strode finally gets a happy ending and a proper send-off, and then you had that final song for the final credits, which, if you did not notice, which I'm sure many people did, but Don't Fear the Reaper was a song that was playing on the radio when Michael Myers was following Laurie and Annie in the car in the 1978 film, giving a call back to that moment and ending this current timeline. Beautiful. This movie's not without its flaws, no doubt. It has flaws. But similar to Halloween 3, I feel many people are overlooking the good aspects of this film due to how different it is. Because we've already seen Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. Now granted, that's how they marketed the movie, as this huge final battle, when in reality it was something completely different. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. Again, please drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on it. And thank you very much for watching. God bless.